Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What Self Care Looks Like. You are back with Brittany. I am your self care and mom life coach, here to help you prioritize your needs and practice self care in a meaningful way so you can reclaim joy in your motherhood experience. And we are closing out season 15 with another wonderful guest. We have Aaliyah Burgess. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this conversation.
Oh, I am so excited too. It's been I don't know, a couple months since we
I think
connected.
so. I think so.
Yeah, it takes a while for things to unfold, and Aaliyah and we've made a connection on Facebook, right?
Yes, I'm trying to remember what group. Maybe the Need a Guest?
Probably the Need a Guest. For y'all who don't know, there's a podcast group that's great. It's a Need a Guest, Be a Guest type of group. And I don't know if one of us were soliciting for guests, but we just kind of connected, and now I feel like we're just friends.
Might as well say so, yes.
Yeah, we're finally doing this thing. So I'm gonna tell y'all all about Aaliyah. I'm gonna read her bio, and then she's gonna tell us all about the wonderful things that she does, and a little bit about her parenting experience. So Aaliyah is a youth development enthusiast, educator, and intentional mama. She is passionate about helping Black families break generational cycles through practical strategies that foster emotional resilience, personal growth, and strong family connections. Through her work as a mentor, tutor, community host, and parenting advocate, Aaliyah equips parents and students with the tools they need to thrive in both academic, relational, and personal settings. Aaliyah's engaging approach and real life insights have made her a sought after speaker on topics such as gentle parenting, discipline, and overcoming childhood patterns to build stronger families. When she's not sharing her expertise, Aaliyah is sitting in Jesus' presence, enjoying learning new things, exploring the outdoors, and spending meaningful time with her family. And I'm so happy that you're spending some time with us today. This is a big deal. I feel very honored to have you. And I really want to start because there's so many things that you do that you're great at. And I'm going to try to hit all of them, but I want to start with you being an intentional mama. Tell us,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So, oftentimes when we think about the word intentional, we think that we're doing everything perfect. Everything has to hit right on the spot, it has to happen right on same time at the same age. Like we think of perfection. However, being intentional as it being in my boat, in my perspective, is you really taking the time to think about how you're responding to things before you react. And
Mm,
so a lot of the work that I do with the moms that I help is helping them to see how they are feeling before they jump straight into whether it's a situation with their children, whether it's emotions that they're feeling within themselves, handling situations with their partners. It's taking that moment to say, okay, right now, I don't think I'm at a place where I can actually handle how you just flopped all over the floor because I wouldn't give you the green bowl. So I'm going to
mm.
take a moment, and then we're going to come back and we're going to revisit this. And so that's what I feel like intentionality and being an intentional mama is.
How do we do that practically? Because it sounds like you're really saying, "Hey, I'm teaching y'all how to take a beat," and that I think is the hardest part. One of the hardest parts of motherhood is that you're not just regulating your kids; you're trying to regulate yourself through
Mm-hmm.
regulating your kids. And there have been so many times where I've just gotten it wrong. I
Yeah.
have just gotten that wrong. So, how do you help us apply that in a practical sense?
Right. It takes practice. It does not happen overnight at all. This is something that I have been working towards. Like my children, I have a 3 year old and a 1 year old, and soon, Lord's willing, they will be 4 and 2 in 2 months. But it's literally been something I've been working on since I've had my daughter. In the beginning, it was not all peaches and creams. It was like there was moments and she's having a tantrum and I'm immediately consoling her, and it's like, okay, just woo, woosah, woosah, woosah. Not even like taking a moment to think about how I feel, not taking a moment to really assess the situation and see, okay, how can I help you with your emotions instead of just jumping into this place of fix it. so that
Mm.
you actually can, the situation happens again, you can take it and say, okay, I am feeling sad. Whenever I feel sad, I know I can breathe in, breathe out. Whenever I'm feeling sad, I can go and ask for a hug. But it takes intentional, again, that word intentional, it takes you being intentional with one, modeling. You have to model for your children, because how are they going to know how to navigate things in this world if we don't actually tell them and show them? Because sometimes we can tell our children things all day long and they are not going to listen until they actually see you. So no matter how many times we say, listen to what I say and not as I do, they are more than likely going to do as you do. So modeling is a really big part, and it's also gaining the knowledge and the tools. And so that's something, I have a community for Black moms that I go through, like helping them to see how, in different situations, these are things that you can do before, so that you can start helping your child and helping yourself in those moments. So let's say, for instance, let's say that your child hits you. In that moment, you are going to get mad and frustrated. And that is not the time for you to react. That is the time for you to say, I need a moment. I'm going to go into my room, go into the bathroom. I'm going to take 5, and then we're going to come back and we're going to handle this. And so I help others to see, like, there's certain things that our children do and it's patterns because it's developmentally appropriate for them. And we're going to see it over and over again, especially if we have more than one child. And so I help them to start seeing those things and take it as, oh, okay, we talked about this. I'm going to take my moment and then I'm going to come back and readdress it.
Yeah, that's great that you do that because I know, well, I didn't have you then, and my daughter's a little bit older than your kids, but there was a time when it clicked for me that that was
Mm-hmm.
okay to do that. And I remember specifically my daughter was having a tantrum and it was close to bedtime because I feel like in those early years, bedtime routine is just a struggle for a lot of us parents. And she just started just having a meltdown. And I just remember almost like watching myself outside of myself, like
Mm-hmm.
just step away. And so I just closed her door and I stepped away and I knew she was safe, right? Because we have to
Yeah.
make sure they're in a safe environment. I knew she was safe and I just stepped away. And then after it probably felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably like 3, right? She just got quiet and then she opened the door and was like looking for me. It's like, like,
So,
what are you doing? What's
are
going on?
you all right?
It's like, oh, I had to take a minute because that was a lot for me. And then I was able to reconnect with her and see, like what is it that she needed? What was the issue? And then see how I could help her once I was regulated. But Aaliyah, what the problem had been, especially in the beginning for me, was I did not have that modeled for me. So
No.
can you tell us how like our experience being raised by our parents really impacts how we end up parenting?
Yes. Okay. Okay. This is one of my probably like favorite questions and things to talk about, because many of us don't realize that the things that happen in our childhood, once we have kids, our kids start bringing those things up and triggering those things without us even realizing it. So the one of the main examples that I use whenever I first started to talk about this is your child goes into the kitchen. They start taking out pots and pans, and now they're beating on the pots and the pans. Growing up, more than likely, you got yelled at for this. You were told not to mess with the pots and pans, and they were taken away from you and put back in the kitchen cabinet. So now you are a grown adult, you have your own children. Your children go into the kitchen, they take out the pots and pans, and they are banging and beating. And now you are yelling at them, telling them, stop playing with those, get out the kitchen, whatever the case may be. This is a connection to what you grew up with. And so many of us are going through the flow of parenting, not realizing that some of the things that we are using as a framework is embedded in us because our body keeps score. Our body remembers how others treated us in those situations. And so that comes out whenever we start to have to deal with it with our children. And so it's something that for some people, they before having children, like for me, I was immediately like, I didn't get, emotional regulation. I wasn't taught about my feelings. So I'm going to make sure that my kids know. But it was deeper than that. It was deeper than just me teaching them all the emotions and me giving them the strategies. I had to go through healing because a lot of things I was unhealed from. And without having that healing and getting to a place where it's like, okay, I can talk to you about this without it bringing up stuff that makes me angry to a point where I'm reliving that whole moment again in my head.
Mm.
And so there's some people who, like I said, you before you had your children, it was very much a I'm going to do differently. And then there are others who don't even realize it. And so it's helping them to see that there is another way, bringing that awareness that the reason why you probably talk to your child like that is because you got talked to like that. You don't want to talk to them like that, but you were never taught anything else.
Yeah, and I see that too, even through my marriage, right? My husband and I were raised differently, and
Mm-hmm.
so when he parents, like sometimes when he's doing something, I'm like, "Why would you say that? Who talks to kids like
Yes.
that?" And then it's like, well, he was, probably talked to like that. And I think another challenge too is that we are still around our parents, most of us. So
Mm-hmm.
they also see us parenting and may not agree with the way that we're parenting. So then
Yep.
there's like this tension. So, do you have some ways we can navigate that in a healthy way? Let's say, around the holidays, for example, you have
Mm-hmm.
aunties, uncles, moms, grandmas in the same space, and they're seeing you parent very differently from how they parented. Can you help us navigate that a little bit?
Yes, so it's extremely uncomfortable. The first couple times that you're doing it, it's extremely uncomfortable. And so this actually happened with me a few months ago. Oh Lord, this year has gone by fast.
Yeah.
And I was out. It was both my kids and my mother-in-law. And so we were getting to a point where my daughter, at first, she's excited to be around grandma. She's excited to be out. She's getting to run around. We were in this building that lots of people go to, and they just walk. And so since that day it was a little too hot to go walk at the park, we decided to walk in the building. And she kept running off. And there was one last point where she ran off, and she was too far away from us. And so I basically had to go run, chase her down, and pick her up and bring her back. And she got to the point where she was kicking and crying, and she was just not having it. In the moment, this was at a point where I was not where I am now, to where I could, okay, she's having a hard time. Let me take this moment to show her some love, even through her moments of expressing these really big emotions and feeling these really big moments. I'm just going to hug her. I didn't have that then.
Mhm.
So I get back to my mother-in-law because she had stayed with the stroller with my son. I'm putting my daughter in the stroller. She's kicking. She's trying to hit. And my mother-in-law, she, based on how she was raised, based on what she did, she goes, you might just have to pop her. If you don't pop her now, then, later on she's going to turn around and she's going to start being the one hitting you.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing that, and now my skin is boiling because I'm like, how many times do I have to say that I don't hit my children? That is not the form of discipline that I choose to use. And so it was just it was a moment of, all right, you hurry up, you get in this chair, let's get out of this daggone place, let's go home. And so I could finally get a moment of woosah.
Mhm.
And so this is where that preparation before, or if you haven't got to a place where you feel as though it's like, okay, I know, I can do this in front of family. If family tries to step in, simply, hey, I got this. Hey, I don't feel like having this conversation right now. I'm not comfortable having this conversation with you. And so that's the kind of language that we have to start bringing in, because there are some families, they're a little overbearing. They overstep in situations, and it's like, oh, that child, she don't know what she doing. These young kids, da, 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 this new generation. And it's like when you're already in a moment with your child where they're handling big emotions, and now those big emotions are making you have big emotions, and then somebody else want to bring their own emotions. It's like it's way
Mhm.
too much. So you have to prepare yourself and go ahead and say, okay, this is what I am choosing to do. If somebody actually wants to have a real serious conversation about it where they are willing to hear me out and talk about it, sure, we can have that conversation with that family member. But if it's one of those family members where they're very much going to say, oh, she doesn't know how to raise those kids. I told her that if that was me, I would have popped them. My children would have never acted like that. That's one of those family members where you need to step away from and remind
Mhm.
them, I choose to do things differently. I'm not going to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. And I love that you talk about having that discernment because I agree that like not every family member really deserves all of that from you, in
Mm-hmm.
the moment. And I feel like as mothers, we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like if we're hosting something or we are around our family for the holidays, we're just excited to see everybody. But like you said, I'm trying to regulate my child and I'm dysregulated too. And I think people forget that. Like, let's
Yes.
say you're at a grocery store and you see a mom and her child, they're having a tantrum and there are so many people, especially that will go online and be like, "Oh, if it was me, this is what I would have done." And
Mm-hmm.
anytime I have an opportunity to do anything in a situation like that at a store, I'll just say, "Hey, can I help you with anything?" Not like trying to step in and do anything with the kid, not trying to do anything, but it's like, "Can I push the cart for you? Can I
Yeah.
do anything just to support you in the moment?" Because the kid is going to forget they even had the tantrum in about
Yes.
10 minutes. But the mom is gonna carry that experience for, like, maybe a couple weeks. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
get so worked up about that because and I don't know, like, how you would really describe this, we kind of attach that to our value as a mother, how well and how quickly we are able to regulate our child, discipline our child in the moment. So, how can we take that pressure off of ourselves as mothers?
It's with this, I truly believe for me, it was reminding myself that these were first God's children before they were mine.
Mm,
And so reminding myself and asking him daily, like, okay, how, and I got this from a friend who got this from a friend. And it was taking the moment to pray every day and say, who does my child need me to be for them today?
mm,
And having that begins to change our perspective. And another thing is sometimes we have to stay off of social media and looking at certain things because we will see how other people do things. I know right now, because like I said, my children, they're in that younger age group. I see a lot of, oh, my child can read at the age of 3. Oh, my child can do this. And so it can get you in this place where you're like, okay, I'm not doing enough. And now you're scrambling, trying to add all these other things into your life. And it's like, but is that what God called you and your family to do? And if
mm.
not, you're adding on extra stress. And so it's a constant, you're constantly reminding yourself, oh my gosh, this is in all areas where you're literally having to constantly remind yourself, okay, this is who God called me to be. This is how he called us to parent these children. If it's anything outside of that, I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
So it's definitely letting go of things that does not work for y'all. If it brings any confusion, if it brings too much stress, too much tears, let it go.
Yeah. Let it go. And I so appreciate that you do the work that you do within community, right? You're
Mhm.
creating community and you're building that so that we don't feel so alone when we're doing
Yes.
something that goes like against the grain of how we were raised. And so could you talk about like gentle parenting? I feel like that's like a hot topic. Um But I also feel there's a lot of misconceptions about what gentle parenting actually is. So can you talk more about that?
Yes, I definitely can. And I'm so glad that you asked this because oftentimes a lot of us, hello, pretty girl. A lot of times we have many people who believe that gentle parenting looks like your son slapped you in the face. Oh, John, I didn't like when you did that. That hurt. How did that make you feel? No. Gentle parenting is not this thing where it's like you just let your children walk over you. It's a form of authoritative parenting. And so if you don't know what authoritative parenting is, it's your child still understands that they respect you and that you are the one who sets boundaries. It's just in this parenting, you allow your children to have choice and that they can actually work with you based on the guidelines and boundaries you have set to be able to do some things that they actually want. So that's just like for like another quick example is we're in the kitchen. Would you like this green bowl or this blue bowl? You're giving your child choice. You're giving them a chance to say, okay, this is what I want in this situation, instead of you making every single decision for them. And a little tidbit, it's very helpful having your children make some choices because it takes the decision making off of you. And so gentle parenting, like I said, it's very much this place of more so of your children knowing I still respect you. You are still the one who guides me through this world, but you're also allowing me to express myself and be myself without so many constraints.
Yeah. And I've totally found that in those moments where choices aren't available, they are more receptive to that because they've had so many choices already. And so then when you're
Mm-hmm.
explaining there are no other options, we only have this one option to do, we're going to do that. And then maybe later we can do something else. I
Yes.
found that to be just very helpful. Like, just that's part of just reclaiming the joy of the motherhood experience,
Mm-hmm.
too. And one thing that I found a lot of mothers get off track with gentle parenting is we'll create a choice or a boundary that's not realistic, not practical, and not something that we actually want to do. Like, hey, if we go to the mall and you start acting out, we're leaving when you didn't go to the mall to
Mm-hmm.
leave. So walk us through like what it really looks like to set a
So
boundary.
I can actually tie this back into so I have a friend and so they utilize this with their children. And so it's something that's very much that comes up very often in our community. And so we all have a chance to like pitch in and help her. But her and her husband, they allow their children. There's a particular day of the week that their children go with their one of their parents. And
Mhm.
so sometimes if they are acting up, dad more than mom will say, okay, well, if y'all don't get this done, y'all not going to grandma's house. And it's like, hey, excuse me. That's actually also for us. They're going, regardless if they don't clean this room up or not. They are going. And so it's learning to find other consequences. So, like, for example, if you don't get your room cleaned up, then you're probably not going to go to grandma's house at 12. You might have to wait until 2.
Mm.
So it's setting like you said, more realistic things because you're still getting out of this daggone house. It just might not be at the exact time that we planned in the beginning. And so it's going to be based on your choices. Are you going to choose to go ahead and get your room cleaned up now so that you can go? Or are you going to choose to keep lollygagging and putting it off and have to go with grandma later, which means that you get less time to go spend with her?
Right. And then it puts the control back on them, and you're still getting the things done that need to get done. So, just for our listeners, just to understand that it really truly is a misconception. We are still parenting our kids. We are holding our children
Yes.
responsible for all of the outcomes. We are just, giving them a choice. It's like you can do it now or you can do it in 5 minutes. It still
Mm-hmm.
is getting done. And I would my challenge for any listeners who are like, I just don't think that that's for me, or that's something that I could do. What is it hurting for you realistically to delay something 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour? How, like, how is it hurting you?
Okay.
And if you have any type of argument, I would say it might be an issue of control. And if you have a control issue, it may be something that's unhealed from the past, right, Aaliyah?
Mm-hmm. Yes, look, you are hitting on all of those points. Because, like, for example, there was my children, there's some nights that they just are having so much fun with playing. It's like, Mama, we don't want to go take a bath. And so instead of saying, if you don't take a bath, you're going to bed. Because you're gonna go to bed regardless. So like it's like we can take our bath now, or you can take your bath in 5 minutes. 5 minutes isn't going to do much of a difference because they're still going to sit in the tub for like 30 minutes to an hour. Because that's my children love the bath. Okay, I know some people they have kids that hate being in the bath. Mine love it, but allowing them that extra 5 minutes to play, it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to hurt you. They get to play for a little bit longer. You get to do a quick task for 5 minutes, and then it's like, okay, it's time. Let's go. And so it's very much something where it's a controlling aspect, and this is more into, for me, it's more into a relationship as far as controlling behaviors.
Hmm.
And that's where my like, oh wow, you got some control issues, sis, that you need to work on, started to come out. And it was, I had to see that it wasn't my significant other, it was me. It was unhealed things from me. So definitely you have to continue to look within whenever you have big emotions with certain things so that you can actually resolve them and come on the other side.
Yeah. And routines definitely help with that
Mm-hmm.
as well. Just, kids don't like being surprised.
No.
If they're in the middle, like your example, if they're in the middle of playing, they're having the greatest time in their life, and then you come in and you're like, all right, time to take a bath. They're like, what? We was just about to do a whole competition in here. Like you're messing with me. But if they know, like if like with her, since she's here, we're going to use her as an example. We've written out before, like, what the morning routine looks like, what the bedtime
Mm-hmm.
routine looks like. So she knows what to expect. And we can just say, okay, well, what are we doing next? Or I'll tell her, hey, at 7:30, we need to start winding down.
Right.
And so she'll just look at the time, or we set timers. So creating routines, and they're not just for you, they're for your kids too, so that they can adjust better when things have to change. Now
Mm-hmm.
sometimes days just get outside of us, and we kind of have to break the routine, but as best as possible we need to keep our routines. Like, I will tell a person, I can't do that on Thursday
Mm-mm.
because you got stuff to do on Thursday. I'm not going to be able to do it. Are you available on Saturday instead? And if they're not, then they're not. That's fine. My routines, I can't be breaking them.
No, look, because you would then be stressed out trying to still continue to do the things that you already normally do on that day, and that doesn't serve anybody well. It
No,
doesn't
it
serve
does
anybody
not.
well at all. And something I wanted to point out, since we're on the subject of routines and schedules, do always do what works best for you and your family. But for some people, and I'm some people, you don't have to have the whole day planned to a T, to the hour, second, minute. Because there was one point in time I tried to do that, and it made me more stressed because I'm like, okay, well, at 12 o'clock, we were supposed to already be sitting down, eating lunch, and now it's 12:03. The world is going to end. And so for us, having that very, okay, everything, something has to happen at every hour, it became stressful for me. And that stress began to flow over to my kids because now they're like, well, mommy's freaking out. Well, then what the heck? And what's going on? And so what we have decided is to make sure that we have morning and night. In the middle of the day, it's like we have our days where we do certain things. Like on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, we're probably going to go to the library for story time. On Thursdays, if we're feeling up to it, we might go to the park. It's not going to be a morning park day. It'll probably be an afternoon park day so that we can relax that morning. Fridays, it's a free for all.
Yeah.
Like, whatever we decide to do, we're going to let that day be open for those quote unquote surprises where we can all come together and it's like, what do you want to do today? Okay,
Yeah.
fine, we can do that. And so to help yourself feel less stress of, seeing so many people say that you need to know exactly what you're going to do every single day, just make sure you have those morning and night routines. Because also, as your children get older and they don't need to depend on you as much to take the stuff out for them, to make sure they're brushing in the right areas, to make sure they're putting on the right clothes. Because for some reason, sometimes my daughter wants to put jeans on for bedtime, and I'm like, baby, you're going to be hot. As they get older, it will just become natural for them. So where they'll wake up at the usual time y'all wake up, they'll go straight to the bathroom, use the bathroom, do their morning routine, wait for breakfast. And it's like you wake up and you say, hey, you already got all that done? Yeah. And it's now because that routine has been embedded in them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like we can always help ourselves by remembering we're teaching in the moment and the part of parenting that we're going through, like that season, we will be past it eventually, but we really
Mm-hmm.
do have to set the foundation for how we want our kids to grow. Like right now, you have a 1 year old, you got to be thinking about how you would like them to be, when they're 4, not so much in putting so much hope and pressure on them,
Yeah.
but just being mindful that we're raising humans, right? We're trying to raise these children to be humans that can sustain their own life in the future, and so we have a responsibility to give them the tools that they need. And that made me think about how you mentioned in your form that you filled out that motherhood taught you to love yourself through all the adjustments. So, can you tell us a little about the adjustments you've had to make on your motherhood journey?
So this just reminded me of last month. What month? We're in December, right? Yeah. Last month I did a challenge called "Release the Hate, Appreciate the Great," where some of the moms that are in my community and that just saw the challenge and thought it would be something for them. We did a 30-day challenge where we released and we forgave, asked for forgiveness, thought of things in our heart that were still unforgiven, and then we learn to accept gratitude for where we've come from, for things that are happening in this moment. And I believe I threw the paper away because I took a picture. But at the beginning of the challenge, we all decided, okay, by the end of this 30-day challenge, what would we like to see that we have released? And on my paper, I had actually wrote, I want to let go of this feeling that this is just my life.
Mm,
And y'all, this was last month, okay? Because I was in this place where I just felt like so much was on me and that I wasn't enjoying it. And I felt like, well, if I'm here now, and I plan to continue being a stay at home mom. I plan to homeschool my kids. I plan to continue in my business. I plan to continue to be with this man. Like, it was, if this is what my life is going to be like, I need something to change.
mm,
And so it goes back to changing your perspective. Motherhood is a hard journey, but it's so rewarding. And so instead of always looking at the wrong that is going on, because I mean, things are going to happen. We have kids, they're unpredictable sometimes.
mhm,
Life's unpredictable. So instead of always focusing on the things that's going wrong or the things that we don't have, think about what you do have. Think about those moments when your children are literally not bothering you, which those are some beautiful moments.
yeah.
And they are playing with their toys and they're enjoying one another. Be thankful for that. Say your thing. Actually speak the words out. Because the more that you show gratitude in your life, the more you think about being thankful for things, the lack that you used to always think of starts to dwindle. And you start to not focus so much on it and worry about it. So it's this place of accepting where you are and then being thankful for it. Because many of us are living in answered prayers. And not only that, I also sometimes think there's somebody who wishes they could have at least had a baby. There's
Mhm.
somebody who wishes they could have another child. There's someone who wishes that they had a daggone apartment that had an extra bedroom. Like, there are so many things that I'm living in that other people don't have. So I, instead of thinking about, I wish we were already in a house. I wish that, my kids would just leave me the heck alone. Like, certain things like that. At least I have kids that bother me, At least I have a roof over my head. Let me be grateful for that. So that is definitely what has been helping me to love this journey more than thinking of it as a burden. Because it was not a burden for God to give me these children. They are blessings. They
Mhm.
are very much blessings, and I'm thankful for them. And that is how I am. I don't want to say getting through, but that is what I'm choosing to believe that my motherhood is.
Yeah, and that is so beautiful that you've come to that and that was what you let go of, because I think a lot of times, especially with the moms that I work with through coaching, it's like, how did I get here? Why does my life look like this? And we
Mm-hmm.
continue to work through it's not about motherhood, it's about your approach to motherhood. And really
Right.
that is, the mindset, it's the trauma from your childhood, it's how you came into motherhood, what your ideas of what a mother should look like. And
Yes.
I try to live through that, how am I going to approach motherhood today? Like, even, my daughter just came and interrupted us a little bit. She didn't interrupt us. She didn't
She
change anything
just,
that we had to do.
hey.
She was just there. And there was a time when I'd be so frustrated by that. Like, hey, I
Yep.
told you not to come in here. Why are you in here
Mm-hmm.
doing this? But by letting her be familiar with my life and my work life and the things that I do outside of being a mother,
Yes.
she understands her assignment. She's like, all right, I'm going to come in. And she immediately, it's like, let me get a marker, let me do some doodling, let me just cuddle for a minute. And then she's on about her business. Like, that did not derail
Mm-mm.
anything that we were doing. And
No.
so people, just remember that you are a human, a woman who has been tasked with this huge responsibility to guide your children, but don't lose yourself in that. Like, you are that special gift that you need to, like, grow through the motherhood experience, cuz like Aaliyah said, it is a journey and we are like living it every single day.
Every single day. It's the job that you never clock out of.
Ever. I barely clocked in.
No, they clocked in for you.
They did. It was like, "Oh,
It's time to be a mom today.
it's time to be a mother." And, more and more, I'm telling myself, I am happy to do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to be in a position to be able to do all these great things and to be able to meet other mothers like you who are really just thriving in motherhood, even as we're learning things along the way. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, with you having two littles, 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, how have you found the balance between including them in everyday activities and creating space for your own self-care time?
Yeah. So I very much am a person who you should include your kids in things because they want to be involved in what has your attention. Because obviously they're like, hey, I'm here. Your attention should be on me. But you know what? If you're going to focus on washing these dishes, maybe I need to come and be a part of these dishes.
Right.
And so I take time. Like, if I notice my son right now, he is during lunchtime. He is not the one that's gonna go sit on the couch and watch the movie while I cook lunch. He is going to be the one that's right there by my side, like, hey, what you doing? And so because of that, I'm allowing him to be in the kitchen with me by, hey, can you throw this away from me? Let's try to open this and pour this into the whatever cup or bowl that we're using. And so not only is we're having this intentional bonding moment, but he's also learning some life skills. So these babies are going to know. They're going to know how to cook a little. They're not going to know how to take care of the house because I'm allowing them to come into these things that I do on a regular. Yes, it might take a little longer. They might not do it right the first couple of times. However, they're getting to be a part of the things like that literally is the day to day life of once we get older. And so I take those moments with them. But again, this is very much where those routines come in. I am a person. I didn't used to do this before. Whenever it was just my daughter, I woke up when she woke up. And uh that
Rookie
is
mistake.
that is not the life. Because immediately I am awoken and it's talking. Like, first of all, why is it that when you first wake up, you want to go talking straight away? Like, I need a moment to get my thoughts going. But she would immediately start talking, or she'd say, "Hey, mommy, I want some cereal." And I'm just like, I just opened my eyes. Can I just lay here for a moment? So what I've begun to do is I actually wake up before them. So at one point it was just 30 minutes before they wake up. Then and this because I do have a 1-year old, I just now finally got back into a place where it's like you are now able to sleep through the night. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, you can start getting back up a little bit earlier now that your sleep schedule is back on track. But mama, if you have a newborn, do not try to make yourself wake up at no 5 o'clock in the morning. Sleep.
Nope.
Please sleep. But that's one thing that I do. I wake up before my kids and I make sure that I have enough time to get in some devotion, get in some quiet time. If it's a morning that I want to go outside for a walk, I make sure I take that. I will even there's some days if I just feel like, I want to sit down. So when they wake up and they come and they see me, breakfast is already made. So you could just go grab your bowl and go sit down. Your mommy is not actively trying to cook while you're, hey mama, hey, good morning. I had this dream and da, 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 da. It's like, no, I'm just sitting here and I'm relaxing in this moment, reading my book or just staring at the ceiling before, as I call it, the quiet before the storm. I'm sitting in my quiet. So that's one thing I do. Another thing, because I am engaged, I utilize my fiance anytime I can. So if it's like, hey, I am really feeling a lot of things right now and I need a moment, I'm gonna go sit in the bathroom for like 5 minutes. Or it's, hey, I need a drive. I'm gonna go for a quick drive. I will come back. And then there's days where I'm working towards like having a designated day of, okay, on this day, mommy leaves the house for like 2 hours. It used to be Saturdays. Now Saturdays, I'm like, I just want to rest. I don't want to go to the library and have a 2 hour work session anymore. I just want to rest. And so I'm working to having another one of those days where it's like, you're not working. You're not doing anything mom wise. You're not doing anything fiance wise. You're just doing something for Aaliyah and take those 2 hours where it's like everybody knows on Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30, mommy's out of this house, okay, and she's taking her mommy moment. So it's setting those days and being like making sure that you set boundaries with others as well of saying like, hey, I'm having this moment and I really need to step away. And then also I stay at home with my kids, and because of that I am with them all day long. So, since we're with each other all day long, I have to also begin to talk to them about these things. Hey, mommy is going to play with you for about 10 minutes. When this timer goes off, mama's going to go into this room. I'm going to close my door and I'm going to go work for a little bit. What would you like to do while mommy goes and works? So
Mm-hmm.
that now they understand mom takes breaks. I didn't see that growing up. My mother worked, 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 came home, cooked, ate, went to sleep, did the same thing all over again the next day.
Yeah.
I did not see her take breaks like this. She did not talk to us about them like that. And again, it goes back to what she saw, what she was parented. She brought that into her parenting. And so I want my children to know that as a mom is just not always on go. A mom deserves to take breaks.
That's beautiful. And I love how many parallels we have in our story and in our approach to motherhood. And I hope that our listeners are seeing it's not just me at the top of the world saying, like, wake up earlier than your kids. And if your kids are under one,
No.
don't do anything else but sleep. Like, this is what we are doing in this community of work, just trying
Yes.
to help other women really navigate motherhood so that we can show our children something different and we can all be the better for it. So, Aaliyah, thank you for coming on. Please tell our listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, so if you resonated with anything I shared today and want to learn more about building intentional habits, not just with parenting, but also within yourself and healing from past experiences, you can find out about my community and all the other work that I'm doing on www.organizedcreator.com, or you can find me on any social media platform at The Very Intentional Mama.
Thank you so much. And for our
Thank you.
listeners, I'm going to see everyone next season. Enjoy your holiday and be safe.
Bye, everyone.